What was the greatest act of mass stupidity? That time when a sexual predator convinced an entire McDonald's that he was a cop over the phone and got them to strip search and sexually abuse an employee. Milgram experiment. The conclusions of this highly replicated test are chilling. Most humans base their morality on the condition of if they're responsible. If they can displace responsibility to someone else, they will do truly horrific things. I have lived in Atlanta, Georgia all my life for whatever reason. Just the mention of snow and ice results in convoys of people going to the grocery store and pillaging the shelves of bread, eggs, and milk. And then a few days later, after our 1 inch of snow, or less, has melted, there is no bread, eggs, or milk left for everyone who treated it like any other time it snowed and just wanted to make breakfast. Once upon a time, somebody spread a rumor across Russia that buckwheat was going to get more expensive. People rushed to the stores to buy buckwheat by sacks, especially old people who remembered the Soviet deficits. And what do you know? Buckwheat really did become more expensive after such a huge demand. Self-fulfilling prophecies are fun. The spaghetti tree hoax. When the BBC ran a spoof news story about how spaghetti is grown from trees, and thousands of Brits responded by planting spaghetti noodles in the ground to try to grow their own spaghetti trees. Miami drivers PSA. Stop driving with your hazard lights on in the rain. It rains weekly and people still haven't figured it out. There are highway signs informing them not to do it, and they still do it. Wait, so you are saying people drive with their hazards on but their lights off? Wow, silly. I thought you meant both on. People do that where I live, and it is frustrating. Your hazards should only be on in an emergency. In 1958, Mao Zedong, the leader of the People's Republic of China, decreed that all the sparrows in the country were to be killed. He decided that China could do without pests like sparrows. Mao thought that sparrows ate too much grain, and it seemed rational to him for all sparrows to be killed. According to Mao Zedong, sparrows were getting in the way of the economic development of the People's Republic of China. During the next 3 years, 45 million people died in a famine as a result of there being nothing to eat the pests that destroy crops. Similarly, in order to boost steel production, he also called for the whole of China to start producing steel. The result is basically everyone made crappy steel, and China's industrial power was set back due to pig iron. He could have avoided all of this had he not hated intellectuals with a passion. Anytime you have a big group of people trying to decide what and where to eat. Where do you guys want to eat? I don't know, I'm down for anything. Anyone want to try that Italian place? I just had Italian. How about Chinese? I'm okay with Chinese if that's what everyone else wants to do. Okay, does everyone want to do Chinese? 'Cause we don't have to do Chinese. We can do whatever. And on and on and on. Somebody just pick something. The way my friend group resolves this is that when someone proposes something, if you veto, then you have to come up with the next suggestion, in good faith. Generally, we land at a compromise within 2 or 3 steps at most. The solution to coming to a consensus in a group on almost any subject is quite easy, but almost no one ever does it. First, everyone proposes one solution. In this case, Chinese, Italian, Mexican, burgers, salads. Write these down. Second, raise your hand if you would be okay with, aka consent to, each option. Almost always there is at least one option everyone is cool with after step 2. If not, ask the one person who's dissenting from the most popular option to propose a compromise. I have never seen this strategy fail even once, given a group under 15 or so. A town in North Carolina voted against installing a solar farm for fear that all the sunlight would be sucked up and no plants would be able to grow. That was a shitty biased article. Having worked in the solar industry in no contact, the main issues from landowners were reduced property values and it being an eyesore. There are people that stupid everywhere. Go to any public hearing, especially land development, and listen to the loons. But I guarantee it was voted down for the property value reason, not the sun sucking. How about the people in 18th century England who, during a boom in the stock market, in the light of a bubble in the price of the South Sea Company, invested in a company for carrying out an undertaking of great advantage, but nobody to know what it is? The man of genius who essayed this bold and successful inroad upon public credulity merely stated in his prospectus that the required capital was $500,000, in 5,000 shares of £100 each, deposit £2 per share. Each subscriber, paying his deposit, would be entitled to £100 per annum per share. How this immense profit was to be obtained, he did not condescend to inform them at that time, but promised that in a month full particulars should be duly announced, and a call made for the remaining £98 of the subscription. Next morning, at 9 o'clock, this great man opened an office in Cornhill. Crowds of people beset his door, and when he shut up at 3 o'clock, he found that no less than 1,000 shares had been subscribed for, and the deposits paid. He was thus, in 5 hours, the winner of £2,000. He was philosopher enough to be contented with his venture, and set off the same evening for the continent. He was never heard of again. Charles Mackay, Memoirs of Extraordinary Popular Delusions, 1841. In my middle school, every morning in the gym, all the kids would like to clap for no apparent reason other than to mess with the teachers. It made no sense to me whatsoever. My buddy from high school started a slow clap in the middle of lunch one day. It was really funny until it stopped and someone jokingly yelled, "Food fight!" Cut to a single milk carton and a handful baby carrots sailing through the air. A few people get hit, and then the lunchroom turns into an all-out movie-style food fight. Someone had their birthday ruined that day, because I swear to God a full birthday cake still in the package exploded in the middle of the room. Not a single person got in trouble because they couldn't locate the source of the slow clap, or who yelled food fight. When I was a sophomore, the seniors wanted their senior prank to be a food fight. I went to cafeteria, just waiting for it to start when nothing happened. This was until one dude chucked a bowl full of fucking boiling hot chili at a girl's face and awkwardly muttered, "Food fight." The chili was so hot the girl had to go to the hospital because it was burning her eyes. The food fight obviously did not happen. Probably the Fourth Crusade. Basically, they were gonna go to the Holy Land, but they didn't have a way to get there, so they took a detour into Constantinople to kill them so people in Venice would give them ships, and then they ended up getting excommunicated for killing Christians. Dihydrogen monoxide hoax. A 1983 April Fool's Day edition of the Durand Express, a weekly newspaper in Durand, Michigan, reported that dihydrogen oxide had been found in the city's water pipes, and warned that it was fatal if inhaled, and could produce blistering vapors. If you know anything about chemistry, dihydrogen monoxide is water. This guy was telling people water is in your water, and so many people were panicking. The Austin gas shortages. After Hurricane Harvey, Texas went into a panic about gas shortages. Experts tried to quell that fear by explaining that there would not be a gas shortage. Austin, Texas did not listen. There were lines, people were stocking up on gas. And as a result, we ran out of gas and prices soared sky high. Thanks, Austin. Most of South Texas reacted exactly like this. It affected cities as far north as Waco, which is still recovering from the crazy high gas prices. Tulip mania is widely regarded as one of the first major economic bubbles. People in the early 1600s were amazed by tulips, and in 1637 they just went bananas. They were buying contracts to claim a single bulb when the tulips were fully grown. Some things exchanged for one tulip, a ton of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, and 12 sheep. Eventually it got to the point where people were paying 10 times the annual wage of a skilled craftsman for a tulip. Eventually people realized, wait, I'm buying one stupid flower for how much? And the market for tulips collapsed. When Reddit found the Boston Marathon bomber. Can you give some backstory? There was a marathon in Boston. Bomb exploded during the race. Footage of suspicious individuals surfaced on Reddit. Reddit users combed the internet and found the bomber. It was actually a guy who had been missing for a while. The page that was set up by family who were still looking for him was bombarded with hate messages and death threats. Turns out he wasn't the guy, but he offed himself. Not to mention the whole thing forced investigators to prematurely announce the identity of the actual suspect just to soothe the mob. During the early days of Chinese communism, there was a mass rally at one of their army's camps. At the time, there was an intense fear of infiltration by outsiders who wanted to sabotage them. One of their chants started, and a portion of the crowd accidentally said, I'm misremembering it badly, but it is something like this. We validate the conclusions of the second Comintern's view on the path of communism. That was an outdated chant, as there had been a third Comintern which represented the current ideology. A lot of these people were farmers, and it was very hard to keep track of the political message, which were always changing. Them messing up the chant was taken as a sign that they were infiltrators, dissidents, and a huge fight broke out in the camp, killing thousands of people. The mad Roman Emperor Caligula ordered his legions and heavy artillery to stand on a beach. He then declared war against Neptune and ordered his men to collect seashells as war booty. There is a school of thought that this was not madness but asserting his authority over the legions, by saying basically you will do as I say no matter how demeaning it is. H. G. Wells read his novel, War of the Worlds, out over the radio, and people who hadn't heard the beginning believed they had tuned into a news broadcast and started losing their minds. What was the greatest act of mass stupidity? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.